So I've had these bones for a long time and I needed to do something with them. First step was to make sure that they were leveled. My partner helped me out here with power tools that I should not be touching. And then I painted a couple of coats of Varathane just because it's really porous and I didn't want it to absorb any moisture. To make sure it doesn't wiggle around, I strategically put some cabinet beans on the bottom. And I used E6000 to reinforce it, and it also gave me a chance to move them around so that they're in the correct place. And then, using some gem tack, I constructed a geode with obsidian chips first, and I had to do a couple of layers of this, and it was a really fun process. I just had to paint on some glue and then shake off the excess and repeat with a bunch of other crystal chips until I was happy with how it looked. I had a pretty good vision of how I wanted this to look, but I didn't have a definite plan, so I was mostly winging this whole project, and I'm seriously happy with how it turned out. I have a lot of ideas for projects, but usually it takes me a couple of years to finally get started with it, so I'm really happy that this finally happened. It's been in my head for a long time. While I was waiting for the glue to dry on the geode, I glued down the little glass tea light holders, made sure that they were leveled and as even as possible, and then after that I added a couple more layers of the geode just to make them a little bit more realistic and have the colors more of a gradient. The next thing I did was sculpt some mushrooms, and these were the only available clay that I had, so I had to be creative with mixing colors. And I wanted some oyster mushrooms first because the layering of them looked really good, and I had to make sure to keep checking against the bone to make sure that it was fitting properly. I want to add also that this cow died of natural causes, and as with all of my other specimens, I usually find them already dead or somebody finds them for me and gifts them to me. And while that was baking, I started on the other set of mushrooms, and here I didn't really know what I was going for. I don't have a definite name on what kind of mushroom this is, I just know it has little caps, and it was cute, and at first I started out with this color scheme, and I was very careful about keeping them separate, and then I just hated it. I did not like the colors and the way that it looked, so I ended up painting it because yeah, it wasn't fitting. One of these days I will get proper polymer clay tools. I'm using a crochet hook and tweezers to put this together, but you use what you can. There's around 98 minutes worth of footage for this video, and I condensed it all down to a 5-minute and 53-second video, so you're welcome. If you're still watching at this point, I appreciate you. The algorithm is not kind to me, so this is just for fun. While waiting for the mushrooms to cool down, I started gluing down some moss. I went back and forth on the kind of glue that I was going to use. Most people recommend hot glue, but after certain temperatures, those start to remelt, and I didn't want to risk having this fall apart after people start lighting candles in it. And I had some PVA glue, but ultimately I went with the E6000 for longevity, and it was a pain in the butt, but it was very much worth it. I'm very confident in how everything sticks together for this. And here is the newly painted mushroom. I like the color of this a lot more than the weird brown that I had earlier. I feel like this fits much better. And then on the other side, I had the oyster mushrooms, and I also glued down a clear quartz point. At this point, I gave up on the narrow nozzle of the E6000 glue because it actually exploded all over my hands and my surface, so I used the end of my paintbrush to just plop it on there, and it worked much better. And I used some darker moss so I have some contrast, and I just kind of played with it until it looked more natural, having a good mix of the lighter and the darker green, some browns, and I was pretty happy with the way that this turned out. And because I just can't leave things well enough alone, I decided to add some darker colors on the oyster mushroom as well to add some depth. And at first I was being very careful to just add it on the crevices, and then I gave up on that and I started just plastering it on and then wiping the top off with a Q-tip just to make the process go faster, because at this point it's been days. This 5-minute video that you're watching, it's days and days and days of work. The last step was to just add a couple of layers of varnish on the mushrooms, and then I was done. And I was so happy with this. I almost want to keep it, but we gotta pay some bills. So this this is available for whoever wants it. And then I had to add a couple more seconds to this clip because I realized I have to show you what it looks like with candles. And here it is in all its glory and beautifulness that I want to keep for myself, but I cannot. So somebody please take this away from me. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you want more videos like this.